What is happening, you guys? Welcome back to the Let's Go Win podcast, where we are here to help you be happy, healthy, wealthy, and get better every single day. This episode, 1000%, is going to help you actually in all three areas. And certainly, I'll say on the wealth side, this woman is absolutely incredible with the work she's doing, the book she's put out. She's got some new ones coming. You guys are going to love this. Sara Connell is a 5-time best-selling author and the founder of Thought Leader Academy, where she helps coaches, experts, and entrepreneurs scale, impact, and create 6 to 7 figures by becoming best-selling authors and in-demand TEDx speakers. She has been featured on Oprah, the New York Times, Good Morning America, Today, Forbes, Entrepreneur, and TEDx. Well, Sara, it is great to see you, and just the energy you're already bringing this morning. This is going to be so much fun. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. We were talking before the show that I'm in Chicago where it's -6 degrees. So I'm happy to be right here in the studio doing this with you, fired up to have a great conversation and get my mind off the weather. So it's great.
Yeah, normally I don't talk about weather, but I will say this. I get this funny email from my son's school, and it says extreme weather caution. It's going to be less than 60 degrees. And I kid you not. So South Florida, they don't know what it really is, but that's not what we're here to talk about. You have a really cool bio. I love what you're doing. How did Sara get to where she's helping all these people being thought leaders and TEDx and featured on these amazing? What was your journey, Sara? How did this come about?
Yeah, so I wanted to be a writer from when I was younger, and I used to watch the movies and read the books where everyone that became a writer got told by a teacher that they were special, right? They got taken aside by a teacher, like you're special, and they give extra books, and then that's how they knew they were going to be a writer. And when that didn't happen for me, I didn't even understand consciously this is what I was doing. But when that didn't happen, that permission never came. I thought, oh, I guess I'm not allowed to do this. And so I went to college and I read other people's stuff and, was an English major, communications major. And then I went and got a job in advertising. So I was like, okay, it's sort of adjacent to being a writer. And unfortunately, it was right at the height of the Me Too era. It was a really toxic environment. And I really started to implode in that job. I was a single woman supporting myself. I was like, I'm going to make it on my own. I'm never asking for help. And, it was just, I started to really deteriorate into a pretty life-threatening eating disorder. And just, that was how I was managing the environment at work. And then I found a book in the Boston airport. I just grabbed the book. It wasn't by a famous person. It was by a woman named Margaret Bullitt Jonas, and no one's heard of her. She wrote this book called Holy Hunger. And I read the whole book in one night. And I realized at the end of that book that I was going to leave the job. It's like, even if I'm on the street, even if I can't make it as a writer, like I am not doing this anymore. And that it just imprinted on me the power of someone's story to change lives. Like whether we speak the story, whether we're on stage, I know you do speaking engagements, you have a podcast, whether we're speaking it, whether we're writing it. And I credit that book as saving my life. And so I said, you know what? I'm devoting the rest. I'm going to pay that gift forward. Like I'm going to write, even if I want something to be in the airport bookstore the day that somebody else is circling the drain. That was kind of my mission there. And when I had the incredible gift of having my first book get me, I got to be on Oprah and got featured in the New York Times, and, just these things happened that were, really thrilling and amazing. And I said, okay, now I had been training as a coach and kind of more general, like women's life coaching. And I said, I'm devoting the rest of my life to other people that have an important story, a mission, a methodology, a way of viewing the world. I'm going to make sure that I do anything in my power to make sure they get to the people that they need to serve. And that's what I've done ever since.
Well, I love that. And I guess my question is, we have these moments of like, wow, this is a profound moment, whether you realize it in the time or not. You're obviously, this is not exactly sunshine and rainbows. It sounds like kind of a dark era. What was it about Holy Hunger, I think is the name you said, that drew you to it, that said, you know what, this is my opportunity? And maybe you didn't realize it at the time. I'm just curious because I see so often, I think people have these moments and yet they don't seize them like the way you did.
Yeah. And I think it was one of those, because people always ask, like, should I go out and read this book? And it was just the book I needed at that exact moment. And I think that's the power of thought leadership, kind of what we call, whether we're, speaking or doing TEDx or writing a book. It's like being that guide to someone or that trusted expert when the person needs it. And what I love is that it wasn't, a super famous person that we've all heard of. It wasn't Brene Brown or it wasn't Tony Robbins. Like, this was a woman who just wrote this. Basically, she wrote a story, different childhood than mine, but had a lot of unresolved trauma, got into a critical eating disorder, and she just shared what she did to get out. And that just showed me, it like gave me in that moment, was like, I don't have to live this way anymore. Like I am going to do something else. And it gave me, I've heard the most powerful words in any language are, you are not alone. I would have think it'd be, I love you, but apparently the research says, right. And I think it's obviously both, but the power of someone to feel like, wait, someone else has been through something and they know a way out. Right. And that's what that book gave me in that moment. And so I didn't even read the back. It was a real destiny. I call these like destiny moments where, we've all had them. Right. And like you said, you don't even know at the time it's happening. I didn't know when I picked up, my flight was being called down the corridor. I'm just randomly grabbing this book, and I feel like the book found me. And I've had that in my life, and probably people listening. We've had someone, a mentor came into your life, you heard a talk, you saw a billboard, it's like a sign, right? Whatever we think about those. And God, am I grateful when that happens.
I have two questions on this because have you met and talked to Margaret since this moment?
I have told this story so many times. I have not met her yet. And I have this vision of doing a documentary about, books that change lives. And there's been, all kinds of people have done different series. And I want to like drive up to her house, with the camera going and just thank her. And so I look forward to, and I have not, I've thanked her like sort of publicly on our platforms, but I've never met her yet. And so I hope to. Definitely.
Okay. Audience, let's support this. I don't know Margaret. Let's find her, because I will say, as an author, and anytime somebody says, you changed my life, you saved me, I mean, there's not a better compliment or just reward for that. And maybe that's why she wrote the book. Maybe she was in her own pain and that was therapeutic. But what now? The domino effect, I guess, is what I'm saying, is like, this thing created this ripple that now you are serving so many, because not just because, but this led to this thing. It's remarkable. All right. So audience, let's help find it. The other thing that I found, and actually I had a moment of clarity yesterday, because, and what I want to ask you is really, why is it that sometimes it takes the worst thing to happen, like the most painful thing? Is it we seek pleasure and pain is the one we want to avoid the most? And do we just say, thank you, this is the sign, and we take? I'm just curious your experience, because obviously, again, kind of a dark moment, this amazing thing happens, and look at all the lives you're shifting and transforming now.
I love the ripple effects, because that's really what this is, right? We're lighting each other's torches or, candles. And it's so exciting. The pleasure pain thing is so fascinating. I was listening to she's I guess a PhD from Stanford, a woman who, and I'll have to look up her name for anyone that wants it, but she was recently on Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO podcast. And she broke down, and they actually had animation of what happens in the brain with sort of the pleasure pain response. And it's more science than we'll want to go into here, but it really was profound to look at the way. So in answer to your question, for me, do we just need the pain in order to change? I think sometimes there's definitely philosophy out there that says we get a whisper, hey, this situation isn't good, maybe find something else. And then we ignore, if we ignore that, there's an idea in certain, different philosophies, religions, that, then you might get a little shake. Hey, get out, whether it's out of a relationship, a bad situation, whatever it might be, a habit, like an addiction, something like that. Right. And then we might get the 4x4, like we might get the whack, or the piano falls, or, and I, out of fear, stayed in something that I knew wasn't right for me. And if anyone uses, spiritual language here, like I knew it wasn't, God's plan for me or anything like that, to be in that situation, but I was so afraid to leave. And out of fear, I waited for the piano to fall. I don't think we have to, right? Like I think there's definitely language, even if people know like Alcoholics Anonymous, like the 12-step program, they talk about raising the bottom. It's like you don't have to wait until you've lost your family, your job, you're in a, on the street drinking out of a bag. Like you could actually, there are exits off this train. The train stops many places before that moment, right? And so I do think, as I look back, can only speak from my own experience. There were plenty of times when I got nudges that I didn't follow. And now I really endeavor to live a life where I follow the nudge. I don't want to wait for the piano to crash on my head.
Yeah. Do you have a process when you get this nudge? And I have one where I believe in signs. I believe that, hey, whether it's universe or God or, whatever you feel comfortable with, audience, we get these signs. And it's just a matter of saying, to your point, I don't need to get the DUI or lose my family to say I'm not going to stop drinking anymore. I can get a sign that says, you know what? Maybe there's something different for me. And I think that's what just happened for me literally yesterday. This thing that everything's going great. And yet I know it's not right. And I made the decision. So this morning you're catching me at this very profound and enlightened and just really bright, because I know the purpose of where we're going. So it's really cool. You mentioned science, and you have a topic on here. When I was reading your bio, I'm like, oh, that's cool. And it's a secret neuroscience technique that will accelerate results. I'm in.
Yes.
What in the world are we talking about, Sarah?
Yeah. So this is something that comes out of the body of work called neurolinguistic programming, if anyone's heard of that, or NLP. And it's there's many different modalities. I use lots of them. We use it in all of our work because I feel like thought leadership starts with leading our own thoughts, right? What's happening in our own brain, our own mind, and then we can go out and, be a positive impact on others. So there's a technique called anchor images. That's sort of the broad category. And I'm sure we've all done versions of this, right? If you've ever done, a technique to visualize, what you want to see in your future, or even vision boards, if people do those, that's a version of imagining the future you want. So an anchor image I like because it really hones in very specifically. So like if you have, let's say, you have a goal for this year, right? And I don't know if you want to share one, we can practice it right here, on it. But so what's something you love? What's something either you and your team like that you're gonna go for this year?
I am committed to, and this is an interesting goal. I am committed to a specific weight, 234 to 243. There's a lot of significance behind it, and normally I don't care about the weight.
Yeah,
but it's just something that I'm like, nope. This year I'm committing to make it happen, no matter what.
I love it. And the why, like you said, there's a significance to the number because it's rarely about, the revenue goal or the weight, it's about who we become, what it symbolizes, what it does to our identity likely. So that's why when we're working at the level of neuroscience and the subconscious, it's the level of identity, right? So now what we would do with that, I love it because it's so specific. What is a way when you imagine hitting that goal, you get on the scale and you see you're in the range, you did it. What is some way that you're going to either celebrate or signify that? Like some people would be calling your best friend, like with the screenshot of the weight. Maybe it's, with your family. What's going to be the way you're going to celebrate that?
1000%. I will let my wife know immediately. Hey, Lise, this is the first time in, let's just call it probably 15 years that I have gone below this threshold. And that's really why it's so important to me, is because it's like she knows I'm the smallest guy in my family. I'm 6'5", 250, and I'm 260 depending on the day. And I've been stuck at this thing. And when I say stuck, not unhappy or uncomfortable, but just not quite where I want to be. And so to answer your question, I'm going to let Lisa know, hey, I accomplished something that hasn't been done for a long time for me personally.
Beautiful. And so now is it going to be by phone, text? This is where the anchor comes in, because we even get into I'll text hey, Lise, you had the words. Are you going to call her? So it's a real time conversation. You're going to run in the room. Like, what do you imagine is like the mechanism for sharing that news?
Knowing me, I know exactly how this goes.
Yes.
She'll still be in bed on her phone doing something. Yes. Our scale is in our bathroom. Yes. I will come out. and I'll just ask her, hey, I need to tell you something. And I'll let her know, hey, something really remarkable happened. I want you to know. And so I can literally see
Yes.
the
Yes.
day happening.
Yes. So now we're going to just, we're going to zoom that in to like a 10-second movie. So you already have given us the cinematic version. You're going to be in the bathroom, you're going to be on the scale, and you're going to go, oh my God, yes. For the first time in 15 years, I am here, and you know what that means to you. And then what's the feeling tone that evokes? Is it excitement, proud of yourself?
Yeah, it's a freedom, and it's an excitement, because the reason the weight specifically
Yeah.
is, as I'm getting older, I'm like, gosh, my joints really are starting to feel that.
Yeah.
I will feel a weight, literally and figuratively, will have come off, and yeah, it's a freedom.
Amazing. So we're gonna hone that into this 10-second movie where you've stepped on that scale and you're like, yes, I feel the freedom. The weight is released. You know that signifies longevity. You know, it means all the good things, right? And just feeling good in your body. And you run it. Hey, Lise, I've got something to tell you. Right. So now we're going to play it. I know it seems a little weird, but if we close our eyes, this will anchor in right into our cells. So we're going to close our eyes and just walk us through it. Just, I know in your mind, everyone listening, you'll just be playing this movie to yourself. And since we're doing it in real time, just walk us through that moment.
So my eyes would be open as I read
Yes.
the number, and I just have this quiet confidence that, wow, I did something I didn't think I could. I walked to the room, asked her to politely, would you just put down your phone? I got to tell you something.
Yes.
And I let her know, and she immediately says, she just gives me a hug.
Yeah.
And it's a really, really special moment that for some people, it's an everyday thing. For me, it'll be a monumental thing.
Beautiful. So deep breath there. We're taking that in, we're anchoring it in. And the last piece of this, so that it becomes a practice, because what we want to do with the neuroscience is the subconscious responds to repetition and imagery. So what we're doing is we're anchoring this reality as a done deal. This is just a matter of you catching up to it in time. What is the peak moment? Is it seeing the number? Is it the, hey, Lise, if you were watching it like on a graph of your feelings, and we were like, what's the highest spike of emotion in that 30-second movie?
It's the quick, quiet moment, the moment I get off the scale, just for me,
Yes.
to know, like, all right, all that work, the diet, the exercise, it's just that like 3 second of,
Yes.
cool, man.
Yep. Cool. And I love that you put a phrase to it. Cool, man. And your body's like, it's this moment for me. Cool, man. Like, good job, buddy. Right. So
Yeah.
now you're going to anchor that, that moment, just that 3 seconds of quiet off the scale. Cool, man. And then once a day, you're going to just imagine it. You're going to visualize it. When you go in the bathroom, you could everyone can pick, this is habit stacking, right? We pick a thing we're already going to do every day. You go in the bathroom to either take a shower or brush your teeth or whatever it is. And you're just going to anchor that image. That's your anchor image. Just that, cool, man.
Oh, I love it. It's powerful. And by the way, guys, if you didn't see, I did close my eyes. I went through it. I literally, I don't know the exact date, but I'm guessing it'll be in March.
Yeah.
And I cannot wait for that. My question to you would be, since we're talking about neuroscience, we created the anchor image.
Yep.
Is it just literally the energy that we're creating? Is it like this is this is our destiny? Like we're creating.
Right.
Why can you correlate why this works so well?
Yep. Yeah. So I've experimented with this a ton and with a lot of our clients. And I really focused in 2024 actually on anchor images specifically because I'm writing about them in a new book I have coming out in the spring. I was like, I really want to practice this. I want to practice it and really look if it accelerated. And I saw things that were on the 1-year vision that became the 90-day vision. That's what I can say about the anchor images. So you talked about March. So I think that's going to happen for you, right? And so it does a couple things. Here's the kind of the why it works to the best way I can explain it. Part one is what I said about the subconscious mind responds to repetition. We want to create a tipping point. It doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. That's what's so cool. We've heard terms maybe like neuroplasticity. What does that mean? It means that we create whatever we want, right? What happens is we tend to think the same thoughts over and over. We have something like 60,000 thoughts I've heard like an hour, a minute, whatever it is. We have a whole bunch of thoughts, and our brain, out of repetition to not overwhelm us, generally keeps producing the exact same thoughts. And that's why we don't see change if we want to, just because one time we say, I'd like to, move here or get ripped or, like
Right.
have a new business. But what happens is that if we consciously use an anchor image, which is a brain prime, right? It's sort of priming the brain consciously and subconsciously to say, this is what is happening. This is my reality. The subconscious doesn't know. It will just go out. And what happened, it goes out to fetch, if you will, if you imagine like a dog, you throw a toy, a ball to a dog, it's going to go fetch the ball. The reticular activating system in the brain is going to go out and fetch whatever we throw. So what happens is we're just throwing repetitive thoughts. That might be thoughts that we like I'm abundant, I'm successful, I feel good, I feel love. It might be thoughts we don't like I'm not worthy, money is hard, the world isn't safe. And what happens, not in some kind of woo-woo magic way, but simply because we have these filter systems in our brain, it will filter for whatever we tell it to go fetch. So it's all kind of available to us. And if anyone's ever had this where maybe you dated, people that weren't great before you found, hopefully like you, it sounds like you have an amazing marriage. I've been married 24 years. So, so grateful and have an incredible long partnership. But before my husband, I dated some people who, I didn't respect myself very well. And they didn't, it was very mutual. It was like, that's what it was. And, but there were great people. Like people like my husband were still in my world. It's just I was gravitating towards people that probably reinforced beliefs I had about myself, and they weren't great. And so this is where we get into really being able to program our brain. So what's happening is repetition. We're suggesting to ourselves on a daily basis, hey, this is my life now. I weigh this. I feel really good. I've lightened the load. I've done something powerful that I'm going to celebrate with my family. My wife's excited with me, right? And so then the other piece that's happening is we're generating a feeling state that matches. And if you want to get into quantum mechanics here, just for 30 seconds, the research shows the thought we have sends out a signal. You've said, I want to weigh this for all these really important reasons. The feeling supposedly is the magnet that brings it into form, meaning we will start behaving like you're going to have this anchor image running all day and suddenly you're going to choose foods and movement. So it's not like magic-y out there, even though I love the idea of life being magical and I think it is. I think life is really magical, but this is our magical brain at work with science saying, oh, I'm now thinking I weigh this. And so you're going to even subconsciously just be choosing different things without having to effort. And this is why we had one of our team members use this last year with me, and she released 50 pounds. And she had been trying and wanting to for years and years and years. And she said it wasn't hard. I don't understand why it wasn't hard. But she did change what she ate, and she did change her movement, of course. We can't just sit there, ooh, let's wish it away. We have to be responsible with our actions. But it wasn't hard because she had kind of just told her brain, this is what I do now. This is my life.
Yeah, so it became her identity, which I absolutely love. I want to ask you, just because, again, I find when I go to sleep, whatever was happening just prior, or for instance, 2 days ago, a former business partner of mine had reached out, hadn't talked to him for 10 years. That evening, had a dream about him and this former business that I was a part of. And this is not uncommon for me. And my point in saying that is, do you have a specific ritual or thing that you suggest?
Yeah.
Because again, when we're sleeping, lots of good time for us to anchor in, to use the word, some of the things that we really want. I'm a huge fan of mantras. I'm a huge fan of really the affirmations.
Yes.
What does it look like for you? And what are you kind of coaching people to say, the gal you worked with, the 50 pounds, that's amazing. Congrats to her. But is there a specific thing that you do prior to going to sleep at all?
Yes. So it is proven, again, there's plenty of research that suggests whatever we're doing right as we're falling asleep and even while we sleep is going to influence results in the coming, days, weeks, and years. So I love that you're intentional about it. There's two things that I love for evening, not to give people like some 8-hour evening routine. You hear some of these people talk, it's like at 7 o'clock, I turn the lights. It's like, I'm a mom, I have a husband, like I'm not starting an evening routine necessarily at 7 p.m. But what I do is two things. One, I pick whatever the energy I want most in the coming day. So if I'm focused on abundance, financial abundance, or is it feeling a sense of purpose, really connecting to, service and generosity, leadership, could be whatever it is that we're health. So there are thousands of free, like run all night, they call them self-hypnosis or meditations, like free on YouTube things. And so something that's so easy that I even, offer to our clients, you can just type in, evening meditation, sleep meditation on, and fill in the thing you want that you're most focused on attracting next or seeing in your life next, confidence, health, money, whatever it is. And just go to sleep with your earbuds if it doesn't drive you crazy, and even make like wraparound ones, that are comfortable to sleep in, like headphones, and just have something going with mantra or, different, auto suggestion, hypnosis, subliminals, and just have that running. And that will accelerate, results as well. We make our own, I make them for our clients. We actually have, I record them to alpha theta waves because I nerd out on all the brain science. That puts you in a genius state. That's called the genius zone, the alpha theta wave. Delta is the wave we sleep to. So we record different tracks for our clients around thought leadership, around becoming a best-selling author, around, seeing themselves on the TEDx, whatever, monetizing their mission. So you can get them for free though, anywhere on YouTube. And then the other thing that's cool is you can ask your subconscious overnight. You just say, if you've got something like you had a big decision to make, it sounds like, something you were like really wrestling with. And you could say, give me the answer while I sleep. And some people say drink half a glass of water. I'm like, I don't need it to be all ritualistic and that, just ask, right?
Right.
Simple. I like simple. I'm a simplicity girl. And just and not every night, it's like I don't get an answer that night. But if you just even say, show me an answer while I sleep, and then play one of these recordings, usually within a few days, I'll have at least the next step, if not, the complete answer. So those are kind of fun that don't, it's quick. You're going to sleep anyway. You can ask, like, show me the answer to this, help me decide. And it's amazing what your brain will do for you while you sleep.
Yeah, I like the simplicity of what you're saying, because I think some people get tripped up on, oh, I have to do this step and this step and then this step. It's like, no, it doesn't have to be that hard. Let's be mindful of our thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Give yourself, I've read the same thing, like you said, about 60,000 thoughts a day go through. Some are really good, some not so good. Which ones are you grabbing a hold of and really focusing on? Okay, cool. You also said you have a new book coming up. So in the spring, I don't know if you can talk about that quite yet, but congrats. Now that would be 6 times best-selling author.
Yes.
I guess my question is, A, if you can talk about the new book, awesome. And B, this is a hard one. Do you have one? It's like picking your favorite child, but do you have one that you're like, man, I nailed it on this one? This is the one that I know they're all good, but this one's special.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can talk about the new book. We just got the covers sent in. I mean, when you do books, it's like kind of an exciting process when you finally written the thing. And it's funny because it's probably, like how actors feel when you've got one that's coming out and one you're working on. So I just started the new number 7 over last weekend, and I'm all immersed in that one. The one coming out this spring, 2025, is called The Millionaire Codes. And really it is not just about creating, 7-figure businesses, which is great. And our clients love to do that. And I love to coach on that through thought leadership. But it's really about what we just did. Anchor images is one of the techniques in the book. And I basically chose the 10 sequences that the 10 techniques that really have made the difference for myself and our clients, that I just wanted all in one place, that help people, whether it's creating that next level, scaling your business to that next revenue milestone, or getting on the bestseller list, or doing the TEDx talk, the things that, that our clients love to work with us on. And then I co-wrote it, never co-written before, but I co-wrote it with a colleague she is one of the top neurolinguistic programming master teachers in the country.
Wow.
And so I really wanted her to write the science pieces about some of the stuff we got into today, but it's a whole lot more depth. And then we wrote the book where if you want to read all that, you love nerd out on the science, you can, or you can skip right to the 10 codes, and they just literally walk through, here's when you use it. It's like there's ones for you've had a setback, how do you make it a comeback? There's codes for specifically financial, breaking through a next glass ceiling, next financial revenue milestone. So it's the 10 codes that I've used with our clients for years, that I use, that make the biggest difference. I just wanted them in one place. So really excited about that book. It's very practical in that way. It's like you can pick it up and just like, here's my issue, here's the code. Like, give me give me something. And we're going to do a fun book portal. That's what we have our clients do, that's interactive. So if you want to see it demonstrated, I think stuff like that is easier if someone guides you. So we'll have, audio and video going with that book. So it's exciting.
I think it's really smart, because as you're describing it, I'm like, well, I'm the guy that's going to nerd out with the neuroscience because I think it's awesome.
Me too.
I think I may have missed what I was really supposed to do back in college, studying all of that. And yet my wife would be, yeah, just give me the 10 things, dude. I don't need to hear all this stuff about how it works. Just, I want it to work. So that is awesome.
Yeah.
Gosh, 7 books. That's amazing.
Well, you said favorite. Do I have a favorite, right?
Yeah, do you have a favorite?
So you know what? For so long, the new one I'm starting now, which I can't talk about yet because we're still getting all the, stuff and the trademarks and everything. But I think that's going to end up being the favorite. What has been my favorite for so long is the book I wrote in 2022. And it's called The Science of Getting Rich for Women. It is, many men read it. It's not just for women, but it was purposely a little bit of a play on the title, because there's a book from the 1920s that maybe your listeners or you have heard of, about The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. Mindset book, very much, talking about this idea of, choosing our thoughts, like a Think and Grow Rich. And all these coaches were recommending it to their women entrepreneurs. And at that time, we were in the pandemic, right? And there was a statistic that came out through Oxfam that globally women had taken an $800 billion financial hit. 800 billion was the total hit to women financially during the pandemic, because of, again, having to homeschool and, all different things. Right. And I got really upset about that number, and just thinking, my God, we have pay gaps and confidence. We need any more setbacks. Right. And a friend of mine said, well, what are you going to do about it? She was really great. You have those friends who give you some tough love. She's like, I was walking around on my pandemic walk, just all, and she said, what are you going to do about it? Really, let's not sit here and complain. What are you going to do? And I said, thank you. I said, we need the Science of Getting Rich for Women. We need to take all that good stuff from the awesome authors. And I love those books from the 20s and 30s. And I read them all and I love them. And so I just really thought about the last 10 years of coaching a lot of female entrepreneurs, and what were some of the, again, neuroscience based, but also just mindset and emotional things that had gotten in the way of economic fulfillment and goal setting. And we put that into the book. And then I interviewed 25 other self-made women millionaires who didn't look like me, didn't come from my background, that had different ages, industries, experiences, and had them share their stories as well.
Well, for those that haven't read The Science of Getting Rich, I liked it. My wife hated it. So I'm going to send her over to Sarah's book, because, look, some of the books, Think and Grow Rich, in fact, I just finished How to Win Friends and Influence People again. They're outdated. Let's just call it what it is. And some of that language, you're like, what the heck are they talking about? That's how much we sound different, a century later. So go check that out. You have something called the 7 Doors Writing a Thought Leader Book Can Open for Leaders. And you're knocking out books. My goodness, my wife would literally strangle me if I was knocking down books the way you are. what is the 7 doors? Like, you obviously have opened up. Anybody that's been on Oprah, that's one of those things where you're like, yeah, man, I think I've made it. I think I've done okay. So obviously it's opened up huge doors for you.
Yeah.
If somebody's sitting here listening, they're like, okay, cool, but I'm not a writer.
Yeah.
Just like Sarah said, she wasn't. Just like I guarantee you, I wasn't.
Yeah.
But what are these doors that
Mhm.
everybody's got these thoughts, they have these experiences, they have something to share. If somebody's listening, they're like, okay, convince me. What are some of the doors that would open up?
Yeah, and I created this list because I was leading a training. We lead like book boot camps, sort of help people who think like, I'm not a writer, but I do want a book, and they always ask, is it worth it? Right. And I don't like giving people this pat cheerleading answer, like, of course I love, because yeah, I do love books. Again, a book saved my life. So obviously, I'm in, right? But that's not, true. And 98% of the people we support in our Thought Leader Academy are not writers. They don't ever consider themselves writers. They don't think they enjoy writing. My sister's an MD, for example, like a doctor. I hate writing. There's people, but they want a book and they want to know, is it worth it? Right. So one of the things that was fascinating to me, the research shows that experts who have a book get chosen to be on podcasts and or to speak, give keynotes, paid speaking, 80% more than experts that don't have a book. So right there, those are 2 doors, right? Anyone that wants to be a speaker, anyone that wants to, be a podcast guest, door 3 in the media, you want to be a topic expert. People love to have authors because there's something built in to talk about. We've got a new book, Jan Ryerson's here, his new book, Let's Go Win or Upgrade, it's exciting. This is why you saw in the beginning in January, there were 6 new books released by big name people, Martha Beck and Mel Robbins. And, I look at a lot of Gabby Bernstein had a new book out. Eckhart Tolle re-released a book with Oprah, doing a series. I mean, why do they do that? These people have all had New York Times bestsellers many times over. Why are they still writing books? Because it gives them another reason to go on all the podcasts and all the shows. And then they can link a course or they can link. So then another door, right? Revenue generation. And I don't like to think about, I don't know how it is for you. I tell and people get surprised. I don't like to think about book sales at all in revenue generation. I just don't. They're wonderful. I love them. I just got a nice royalty check this week. I'm taking my family. I bought my plane tickets for my, family to go on spring break. Like, great. But I love to help people put a business behind a book, right? Like put something high ticket with that book, whether that's retreats, a course, coaching, consulting, there's all kinds, whatever is authentic. But a door that it opens is you have instant credibility, even if that's not warranted, right? We just have that in our culture. It's like someone wrote a book. We think, oh, they must know what they're talking about. Sometimes maybe someone does it. I don't know that that's necessarily fair, but just to, again, since you said you like to kind of nerd out on the science like I do, I love data. The attention span of the average adult in the US and actually the Western world right now is 2.9 seconds.
Oh,
that's the attention span of the average adult because we do this all day and got stuff and it's 2.9 seconds. So why would anyone write a book? Because you can't read a book in 2.9 or listen to a book. But here's why. In 1.8 seconds, because I actually wanted the numbers on this, the brain can process your book cover, your name, and that you're an expert on your topic. So it breaks what I call the attention span barrier. It's like when NASA and the fighter, the Top Gun guys were trying to break the speed of light, with aviation, sort of that's what we're in as thought leaders right now. We're in a place where we've got to break the attention span barrier. And so in 1.8 seconds, someone knows, oh, okay, Jam's got this. He's an expert in this. You've got my solution. And then that's a flag in the ground. This is what I own. This is my, leadership. At that point, you earn another 2.9 seconds of someone maybe, checking out the book, listening to the book, watching something on YouTube, whatever it is, listening to the podcast. But that's why people do it. And so the doors it opens, revenue generation to higher ticket items, of course, and book sales. It opens up speaking engagements. It opens up media, podcasting. If you're going to, if you've got a podcast, it's a product or a YouTube channel that you can monetize those, those different thought leader channels and platforms. And it changes lives like we talked about, right? You can touch someone that you could never meet otherwise through the book.
Yeah, no, the credibility is incredible. And you mentioned Mel Robbins. Here's what I think is so interesting about She's brilliant at marketing. Let's just go ahead and the 5-second rule. Damn, I'm like, that's a great idea. The high five rule, like, gosh dang it, that's right there. It's sitting there. I think it's Let Them is
Let
her
them
new
is the
one.
new one. Mm-hmm.
And here's what's fascinating. I watch this because my wife is not a reader,
Yeah.
and yet Mel has absolutely helped her. I'll just say for this year, this theory, she has yet to read the book.
Yeah.
And yet this Let Them, it's really a very confident woman to begin with, has let her thrive because of these ideas. And she may never read the book, but she'll listen to her on a podcast. She will absolutely see her on some interview. And it's just, it is amazing what it really opens up. There's one other thing I have to ask you. There's so many directions I could go with you, but the proven 3-step process that you smash to hit any big goal, which includes multiple 7 figures in a year. I think anybody listening is like, okay, cool, 3 steps, I can do that. What is this, Sarah? I want to know.
Yes. So if anyone's heard, and if you've heard that there was, again, in a lot of like personal growth, type books, they'll talk about be, do, have. It's this, it sounds like a, ancient saying that basically is the idea that we have to become something. This is back to that identity conversation we had earlier. We have to be the person who weighs this, or who has a best-selling book, or who has a 7-figure business, right? There's a being aspect. And then the idea was that you do the actions that match that identity, right? Again, we talked about changing movement or food if it's weight. And then you will have the goal, right? So if you set a goal of 7-figure a year entrepreneur, there's an element of, being it, doing it. And what happened, I was working with that, and you can get some results with be, do, have. But the have is supposed to be automatic, if you kind of the be, do, and it wasn't for myself and some clients. And I thought, what is this? So I took some time, I dug in there. And what I realized is, for me, and this is what I write about in that Science of Getting Rich for Women book, that really there's 3 steps in my mind before the have. There is being, the identity, right? But then there's releasing what I think of as the subconscious blocks, the unconscious. So we have us up here going, I want to be a 7-figure entrepreneur. Yeah, let's go. Millionaire. It's my $1 million year. I used to put 6 figures on my vision board every year. I wasn't doing anything. Nothing was moving, because what's going on underneath is called chaotic vibration, right? So it's this dissonance between the part of you that's like, yes, millionaire. And then any of us might have family agreements. Like, you can't earn more than, your parents, or we don't come from money, or money's evil, or, like all kinds of stuff that we might have taken in from culture, media, ancestors, family upbringing, trauma, right? Trauma. That maybe something wasn't safe, or you were really awesome at your sport, and then people like were jealous and weren't your friend. And so suddenly you associate success with loss. There can be all kinds, like a minefield of stuff. And so what I started to build into the work was, yes, the identity work, and what is the vision? You've got to have a clear vision. We know this, right? But then what do we need to release on whatever level, whether it's thoughts, behaviors, beliefs, habits? Maybe we have a habit of constantly beating ourselves up. That is going to be in conflict with, I'm a millionaire, I'm successful, I'm powerful, anything, right? All that stuff. So we really look at the work of, so the 3 steps are, what's the vision that I get to be? Who do I get to be? And really thinking about, and in the book I describe, how to get in touch with all the different levels. There's even this, again, I love that we can kind of nerd out on the studies part here. There's a thing called enclothed cognition, right? So what that means is what we wear will change, yes, how we feel about ourselves. It actually changes performance. It changes the ability. They took people in equally intelligent, same equalized for all sort of capability and skill. And they gave one group an exam, just had sent them in to take the exam. And they put the other group in a room and gave them lab coats from Stanford doctors. I think it was Stanford. And they said, just go take the test. This is a, esteemed Stanford, whatever, the master at this, what the test is about. The people scored like exponentially higher that wore the lab coats. Like, it's silly. It's like there's been lots of studies with kids wearing superhero things and scoring on tests. So even like in the being stage, right? The 3 steps, be it even is like, what is the awesome guy that's weighing that amount, what does he wear? Maybe it's exactly what you already wear. Maybe if it's different, you can play that around, or you buy the outfit that I'm going to wear and feel awesome in when I'm at that weight or whatever. Right. So being, and then releasing. And that's where we're getting into the techniques that are, in the upcoming book, and also in, a lot of them in the Science of Getting Rich for Women. What are the ways we're going to get out, dissolve all that stuff that's saying you're going, yes, and this part of you is in the background, and it will sabotage. We will sabotage ourselves.
She said the word, guys.
Yep.
I was waiting for it.
Yep. We'll sabotage over those all day long, and you can't beat it. Like they always say, your life won't rise to the level of your vision. It will match the level of your belief. And that's the stuff under the surface, right? And so release is the second step. Third step is the doing, right? And this is what I did. So my first 7-figure year, I mean, I came from, you guys, like really starving artist mentality. I'm a woman. I had all this nonsense, stuff going on. I was struggling to make $20,000 a year as a coach and author. It's like, it felt embarrassing because I thought, with all of I went to a top university. I was like, what is wrong with me? I cannot figure this out. It felt demoralizing. I felt really shame with my husband to not be able to contribute more. I mean, it felt terrible. And so what I did, I started working on releasing these unconscious beliefs, step 2. And then I did step 3. And every morning I said, I am a 7-figure CEO. What does the 7-figure CEO do today? Not what do I feel like doing as the person who's been underperforming, under-earning, undervalued, all that stuff, sabotaging. What does the 7-figure CEO do? And I would read about 7-figure CEOs, and I would talk to as many as I could. And I got in their mastermind. It's like, what do I get to change in myself? And I would pick 3 things a day. That's it. 3. It might be write this proposal, pitch yourself to this, speaking engagement, write the next book, whatever it was. Every day, just what does that person no longer? I went through my whole closet. I got rid of everything that wasn't what 7-figure CEO would wear, and used enclosed cognition. So those are the 3 steps: being it, releasing with some modality, those subconscious beliefs. And there's lots of techniques that are free on our, the Science of Getting Rich for Women website. People can use, just do tapping and all kinds of, brain science stuff to release those. And then what does that person do? And actually just starting to do it. And it sounds so like, easy, simple. But when I put those 3 together, I went from really struggling to 7 figures so quickly once I started putting these together.
Guys, I have read, I don't know how many self-development books, and I will tell you, this subject, releasing, being is really important, so is doing. They're equally important. However, this idea of releasing, I'm telling you, she has unlocked the key. I hope you hear it. Excuse me. I want you guys to go back through and listen to it again, because the self-sabotage, the getting in our own way, the identity, what we've been conditioned, and all these hardwires that you were given, good, bad, or indifferent. We've talked about it on the show. That word is so powerful. Sara, you are awesome. I can't believe how fast this has gone. I know my audience wants to check you out, so they're going to go read some books, hopefully. But where would be the best place to find you and everything you're working on?
Absolutely. We've got a new YouTube channel, actually, where we're going to be pulling a ton of our stuff. So those of you, like your wife is like, I don't want to read, show me a video, and give me the stuff I need. So that's going to be at Thought Leader Media. So you can even just search YouTube, Sara Connell, and I'm Sara without an H. And of course on Instagram, just at Sara Connell. Also, anybody DM me if you need anything. If you have a question from today, I'm so here for it. I want, Jim, you're empowering people. We want people to win this year. I love that it's about let's go win. And, when you win, everyone wins. Because they see you do it, they see what's possible, the ripple effects, right? So let's create some ripples, and would love to connect with any of you.
Well, you certainly did that today. There's a lot of ripples created. I'm excited for this to get out to my audience. Thank you. Thank you for showing up in your authentic way and really just sharing stuff that I want people to know this stuff and hear it. And you did it in such a beautifully simple and yet profound way. So thank you, Sara. I really appreciate it.
So glad to be here. It's been such a pleasure.
Guys, that was 40 some odd minutes of awesome. And I will tell you that releasing part, the way she said it, I'm already like, all right, there's a book just called Release. Like, let's just focus on this alone so you guys can go thrive. Please share this with someone that you love and care about. This is the message that people need to hear and know about. I appreciate all you guys so much. Until next time, remember your mindset matters. We'll talk soon.